All right, we are back with another amazing session. I always love having Taylor here because he is really the top knowledge wealth that I've ever seen when it comes to breaking into retail. He's done it all before. All the major chains are in his pocket, you could say, and he knows how to speak the language. So that's what he's going to come here and teach you today, how to break into retail and really work retail both nationally and internationally when you're ready for that. Taylor, I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much for having me today, Derek. It's a pleasure. Hi, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So my name is Taylor Ofer. I live in Tel Aviv in Israel for the last few years. And just a quick overview about me and what I do before I start talking about retail and selling to physical stores. So I've been traveling a lot. In China, and I was living in China actually, and in Japan and Spain and so forth, and doing business all over the place. I started my real career back at 2002. Actually, it's 20 years. Wow. So yeah, I started my trip there, my journey there, and I was selling products, luckily, to Walmart. I was doing cut and sew, which is like, sewing garments for BCBG. Yeah, so I was living 7 years physically in China, and I was doing business with a lot of retailers in the States. Back in those days, like, Amazon and all those stuff, they weren't really existed. They were, in the beginning of their road, but nobody was like selling on Amazon that I knew. It was not something that, happens that frequent like it is today. So, yeah, I like kind of find my road in the retail stores, and I continued with that. Although, I heard about, eBay and Amazon and all those other platforms, but I thought like, my expertise is retail, so I'm going to go on with that. I also met my wife in China, got married quite quick. I couldn't hold myself, so I offered her the week afterwards, after we met. Anyways, she's from Israel as well. It's funny that she lives like half an hour from my house in my hometown, and we had to go all the way to China to meet each other and get married. But anyway, 2010, I got back to Israel. I started, to be on flights and everything, flying to the States all the time, back and forth. I was doing my own brands, my own products, since I had a lot of experience with China. As we all know, it's a little bit exhausting sometimes, to work with manufacturers. All this supply chain is not something easy to do. And that's why I chose at some point to stop doing what I was doing, because I was, more into focusing in the sales, on the sales side. And on the sales side, I was back at 2015, 2016, 17. I was working with 50 to 60 different retailers in the States, which is a lot. We're talking about Williams-Sonoma, if you know them, TJ Maxx, Macy's. You probably heard of some of them, Costco, Target, and so on. And then 2017, I really really stopped totally to produce myself. And then I realized that I want to focus on the sell, and I was starting, to be approached and to approach myself, Amazon sellers and e-commerce sellers, trying to figure how can I move them from online to offline, because that's what it is. By the way, it's funny to know, and I was, amazed to see that there is a term on Wikipedia which called online to offline. And this is like what I do for years, and I didn't know there's a term for that. So I was so happy to see that. Anyway, so online to offline, why? Because when you sell online, your state of mind is online, is the B2C. And we're talking about here about B2B, like business to business, not business to consumer. So you're not gonna, in the business side, you're not gonna talk with, consumers, or not gonna deal with feedbacks, obviously not on a daily basis, and all these things, returns and so forth. This is something that the retailer is doing for you, is or are doing for you. What you do need to know in terms of breaking through the stores, because this is the big thing here, right? I mean, you're sitting there and you have your products, you have your supply chain, you have amazing branding, you have everything that it takes, to literally jump into the water and start selling. But how do you do it? So first of all, I try to break it into 6 points of what are the things that you need to start selling in retail side. Now, before we talk about those 6 points, those 6 tools, we have to think about, the bigger picture. Like, okay, so if I sell on Amazon, I just go to the platform, and step by step, I learn how to use the Seller Central and all those tools and everything. By the way, I never sold not even one piece of nothing in Amazon. It's not not my place, not my industry, but I'm hearing a lot of stuff from people I work with, so I kind of know a little bit about it. So yeah, you just go to Seller Central and you start to upload images and pricing and inventory, and you go back to China and you order your stuff and so on and so on and so on. And here you have something different. What do you have here? Say you want to sell your products if they are, off price. Okay, just for the example, if you have like cheap items in the range of between whatever $15 to $40 maximum, like retail price, what we call in the industry MSRP, manufacturer suggested retail price. So normally you would go, to places that are selling that kind of price range, right? So let's say you choose to sell at Home Goods or Burlington or Marshalls or TJ Maxx or all of those, discount retailers. Now you're asking yourself, all right, I want to sell there. Who do I talk with? How do I do it? So normally you would think, okay, let's go to tjmaxx.com. And then you realize that even if you get to the point where you find the vendor section in the website, there's a lot of forms you have to fill in. And you're asking yourself, wait a second, before I fill all those forms and all these papers and all these, things that they're asking in their forms, number one, where this form is going to. Number two, who says that by filling the form, they really understand what I want to try to show them. And number three, you are literally, filling a form and doing a lot of efforts with that form while you don't even know, what are the chances that this form is going to become a business. Not to mention that some of the retailers are working with platforms like rangeme.com. Some of you might heard about rangeme.com. I personally don't want to say bad things about anything, but you understand what I think about it, right? So the only help I did have with from my business with RangeMe, although I was, a few years ago, I was trying to pay them and to see if they can really deliver what they promise and so on. So the only help I had from them is just the platform of doing, a video call with CVS. And I had that call like a few weeks ago. And it's funny because at the same time last week, I had a call. No, it was this week, actually. It was Tuesday. I had a call with CVS for another vendor, and that was just, with WebEx, like, normal platform, CVS platform, without the RangeMe. So why do I need them? I don't know. Anyway, so you ask yourself those questions, and then you think, okay, so filling the form, as I think, and as probably some of you know, is the last thing you want to do because it's a waste of time. I even know from some people from the industry that most of the forms are going to the garbage, right? So yeah, no point. So what do I need? I need to find a buyer, right? Or assistant buyer. I need to know who I'm looking for. So I'm looking for buyer, but I'm looking for assistant buyer, and I'm looking for GMM, which is General Merchandise Manager. So whoa, wait a second, Taylor. What are those titles? GMM? I never heard about it, right? And there's also SVP, and there are more titles. So here's the thing, category manager and so on. Here's the thing, if you want to go to the market, you need to learn the market a little bit. And it's a little bit, taking a few minutes and Googling like, what are the roles around buying teams in the retail space. And you will find a lot of roles. So let's say that you're looking for category manager, not buyer, category manager. He doesn't, or she doesn't, consider themselves as buyers, but as category manager, which is a little bit different, but actually the same. It's hard to define, but we won't waste time on that. So anyway, LinkedIn, right? You're going to look for them on LinkedIn, right? And then you're going to try to approach them, right? Which is fine. It's a good way. And you can even find their emails on different databases over the internet, right? You can actually give me a call and try to do it through me, but that's not what we're here for today. So if you do it yourself, which is a great idea, then you want to think, all right, suppose I can find them on LinkedIn. How do I look on the other side? Do I look like a company? Do I look like a brand? Or my profile is like on LinkedIn, for instance, looks like, someone who's just wasting his time on the beach? It's a big question. It's a big thing. I mean, I'm trying to put it in a nice way, in a funny way, but it is a big question because the minute they see your picture and where are you from and so forth, that's where the first decision was already made, even if they don't know that. they were like, looking at, oh, doesn't look, something that stands for what I'm looking for. Anyway, next you're going to have to think about something very short that you want to write to them. You don't want to say, hey, look at my brand, and then 2 miles of text that you're like, wow, I'm getting lost here. What the heck is this guy wants? If he's offering me something with all this text in the first second we met, then what's going to happen next? He's going to send me emails with endless text. No, I don't want that. So you have to think about it. You have to make it very short, very precise. And this is actually part of the 6 points I mentioned before. Let's dive into the 6 points. Why? Because by now, I hope that, you're using the wheels in your head. Think, all right, if I spoke about LinkedIn, obviously that's not the only platform, but you are able to find buyers, category managers, whatever, purchasing, sourcing manager, and so on. So you find them, but you have to know a few things. You have to know that they look at you as if you were someone coming from the online side. And if they think that, they would like, okay, let's be careful, because they know, and that's for sure, and I'm saying it 100%, confident with what I'm saying. They know that online sellers do not know how to handle retail. Why? Not because they're not smart. Not at all. They're very smart, actually. They're much smarter from our industry. My industry, the retail industry, is a so-called stupid industry. It's like, old school. But it's always there. It always exists. People would always go to the stores and buy their things in physical stores. The thing is that the way it works is very old school. Not very, but old school. So here are the 6 things. We'll walk through them very fast because we're trying to do it, efficient today, so that we can still have time for a few tips as far as I can give you today. Here are the 6 points. So the first one we already spoke about is the brief. The text you're sending them on LinkedIn is a shortened version of the text that you would send them on email, right? Okay, now what's that brief that I'm talking about? It's the way you present your brand. So obviously, you want to talk about quality, you want to talk about amazing stuff and so on, which is good. Do never mention quality, by the way. They are, under the assumption, all of them, all the buyers, all the buying team, that quality is there. Because if you don't have quality, you would never approach them. Sorry. Because if you have quality problem, this, business is going to end very, very quick, very fast, because they're going to hear about it, they're going to know about it, and then, you're losing your face as a brand. So brief is the way you present yourself. Try to make it, short in terms of like 5 to 10 sentences at the maximum, with link to your website and link to your catalog. So catalog is the second thing. E-catalog is, a simple PDF. Do not make Excel or Word. I don't know why, but people hate it. Well, actually, I don't like it as well. I believe that PDF, is, in terms of visibility, is much more beautiful. A PDF showing your products. Don't talk about, the market potential or stuff like that, because they know it better than us. They just know it better than us. That's what they do for a living. Okay, all those analytics, percentage and so forth. So anyway, products. Before you show them, you can show your logo, your company, something that like a teaser of who we are, what we do, but don't make it overwhelming. And then the products page by page with MSRP, like retail price. You can also offer wholesale price, but it's a whole topic of pricing. We'll talk about it in a second. And just make it beautiful, eye-catching, and it has to make sense in terms of how your website look, which is the third point. Your website has to be retail ready. What is a retail ready website? You can Google that very easily, but I'll give you the 2 biggest tips that I can give, and I know that it's hard, but that's what it is. They don't expect to see an Amazon platform look like website, which means they don't like those 5 stars, even if they are not necessarily yellow, but blue. And they don't like all those reviews inside your website, because this is your website, it's your own store. You don't need, reviews on your website. But I do understand you need that, because when you sell e-commerce in your website and you have Trustpilot and so forth, then you will need it. That's fine. There are ways to handle that, like, not showing those reviews, but only in the product, in the product inner page. Generally speaking, lifestyle imaging and rendering are the 2 best things to use in your website. I, try to make it simple. If you look at popsocket.com, which is a very famous brand in the States, PopSocket, I know them personally. The owner is a good friend. So if you look at the website, you'll see what is good branding, and that will, address a lot of questions that might come up. So these are the three things. The fourth one is the packaging. Obviously, when a consumer walks into the stores, I mean, if you show him a product like this, blank, and you don't see the apple, you don't know what it is, right? So you just go on moving to the next thing. But if the product is sitting, inside a box with all those, beautiful graphics, and he literally understands in a second what he looks at in the packaging, then this is a retail packaging. Plus, think about the fact that some products, and you can Google your own product and see what fits. Some products might need a J hook, the small hook that stands on the stander in the store, or they are boxed, or they are carded. It depends. Carded products usually are being hanged, and they're being sold for lower price. Okay, if you look at Tuesday Morning, which is a off-price retailer, you will see what I'm talking about, but you see it also with DJ and with Walmart. So we had the brief, we had the catalog, we had the website, we had the packaging, and then you have competition and pricing. These are the 2 points. You have to make some competition research. Now, I know you did so for Amazon because you wanted to know, if there's any point of bringing all this stuff from China before I start sale, right? Amazing. But keep in mind that what you see online reflects a bit about the offline, like these physical stores, but it's not telling the whole story. Okay, so I'm sitting there in my computer asking, so what now? What am I going to do? I mean, am I going to like take my car and start traveling on the stores? No, you have YouTube, mate. You just open YouTube and you click unboxing, whatever product it is, and you see how people are boxing their product, what they sell it for, how they hang it in the store. Sometimes you can even walk inside store, Menards, whatever, Dillard's, all right, Belk, whatever store you think that fits your products. And with that short video, you will understand, how the store look like, and if it fits your products, and if it does, then how should my product look like? Plus, who are my competitors? Which is something that you can also see on their, .com channels. Normally, okay, not always. Keep in mind that places like Walmart, you don't see on Walmart.com what is selling in their stores, because it's 2 different channels for them. They totally differ them. But if you're talking about smaller retailers like Macy's or like Bloomingdale, I don't know, not Urban Outfitter, but maybe Free People, then yeah, it reflects. Anyway, you do the research as far as you can to understand how much the MSRP, the retail price of the competitor is. And by that, you go to the pricing stage. Pricing stage means that I know what's my retail price because I'm selling them at the same price as I sell on Amazon. It has to be the same. Amazon or your website, doesn't matter. You cannot sell it in one price here, one price there. It's an inner conflict, as you probably understand. But keep in mind as follow, and that's, I'll try to make it short. Retail price is normally double than wholesale, meaning if I sell a product for $30, then I have to sell it wholesale for $15. And if I go to off price, they expect to buy it not for $15, but for $7.5, $8, maximum $8.5, which is around 25 to 30% off your MSRP. When we're talking about TJ Maxx, that's what they do. When you talk about Tuesday Morning or other off pricing, they buy for 30% off your retail price. So that's why you have to be prepared, up and ready before you start, applying them, because you have to know what you're talking about and be ready with all the information. Because once they start shooting you emails, you cannot just stop and say, wait a second, let me calculate. Hold on, let me call my friend. No, you want to be ready with everything, with all these 6 points. 6 points. So again, brief, catalog, packaging, website, research, pricing. You have all that, you're ready. Shoot your shortened brief on LinkedIn, on email, whatever you find, attack them. Most important, don't be afraid. Most of them are doing either cut to order type of purchase order, which means they give you 3 or 4 or 5 months to do the order, or they give you a test order saying, hey, how many pieces you have in your warehouse of this style and this SKU and this SKU, and say, oh, I have 300 from that, 2,000 from this, and so forth. And they, manage with you what makes sense in terms of a test order if they are not sure about the product. And a test order is the best way to enter, because once you step into the door, that's it. You work with them. You have an open channel. Even if if the product not selling that good, you can always offer them other SKUs, right? That was, the basic things that you should know when walking into the retail side.
Yeah, awesome. Taylor, I'm curious, should we on that first test order be willing to give our product away below cost of goods sold? Like should we be willing to lose money on that? Or do
No,
we have
no.
to always make sure there's some form of profitability in the deal?
The only free thing that you give the retailer are the samples. And you know what? They're fair enough. And sometimes if they don't like the product or they don't choose it, in their selection, they would even offer you to ship it back to you just to make sure, that. So, but that's the only thing. Like if again, couldn't reach out that, but if I'm selling $30 retail price in a product and I cut it by half to get $15 as my wholesale price, so let's say even $10, right? If I buy it for more than $6 or $7 landed in the USA, more than $6 or $7, then I don't have a business for retail. It's not my place. If I buy it for $5, awesome. If I buy it for 12, I'm not going to sell it for 13, just making $1 per piece, because it doesn't make sense. Only if you sell millions of products, millions of in quantity, So yeah.
So in some cases, the merchant might need to secure their supply chain in a different way, find a new or different or cheaper manufacturer before they can even move into retail. Otherwise, I guess it might become a factor of increasing their overall price across all channels, right? Amazon.
Right, but there's an egg and chicken thing here, which, by the way, I think the chicken came before the egg because I believe in God creation, and if He created the world, as far as we know, not if, because then chicken came before, and then she had the first egg. That's what I think. Anyway, so the chicken and the egg. When you approach them, don't think about the pricing that far. Why? Because they might come and say, okay, you know what, we want this product. And I'm seeing that right now with the brand that I do. They didn't want, who was that? Forgot which retailer, maybe Walmart, I don't remember. So they liked a different kind of packaging. And the vendor said, truly, like, honestly, I don't know the price because I need to know quantity to know the price, because we haven't done that packaging before. We're just showing you options. And she says, like, all right, let's talk about 750 per SKU, and we have 10 different variations. So it's like 7,500 units. And by that, he can go to the manufacturer and say, hey, what's the price? He knows the price is more or less whatever. I think that particular price is $12 landed. So he knows that with this quantity, he might get, to somewhere between 9 to 10, which is much better. And then he can, negotiate with the retailer as well. So
awesome. I love it. Really quick, I wonder what your opinion on the idea of using retail to later on drive people back to direct to consumer. So getting the product in the shelf and getting that second purchase or tertiary purchase on the direct to consumer channel. Do you see this working in that kind of virtuous cycle, or do they tend to stay separate?
I did it myself. I started from retail, and then I had my team with my brand back in my New York office, a few years ago, and we're trying to hit the online channels, and it was, to be honest, it was hard. The thing is that it's easier to get to retail after you're getting to the online, because when you're already selling online, you probably have samples, you have supply chain, up and ready. So all these, technical things down the road are already there. Plus, but there is a thing, as you're asking, there is a thing that is a very good, advantage in the retail. You are being exposed. Now if you work with CVS, they would ask you, what's your marketing budget? They're trying to say, from every sale that we do with us, how many percentage you're taking from the profit putting into marketing, right? And you have to say a number, which is, everybody knows it's not a real number, but it doesn't matter. But that's because they are putting marketing investment themselves for each and every product. So you are going to be exposed. Now think about other retail channels like TV. And I work with TV, I work with different segments, and I work with subscription boxes for those who knows what it is. This is like an enormous amount of promotion and marketing free for your products. So obviously, yeah, the simple answer to your question is yes. But then I find it that the supply chain wise, it would be easier to start with the online. And that's why it's easy for me to work with, e-commerce sellers, because they already have the construction.
So yeah, so tell me about that. When like just revenue wise or product sales wise, obviously you talked about the 6 pillars that we need to have set up, but like, is it 5 million when I should be thinking about retail? Is it 50 million? I know there's no necessarily right answer, but how would you
in terms of revenue?
Yeah, revenue or team size, or like, should I hire somebody dedicated to retail, or should I try and do it myself first and hire them later?
Well, you can hire me, but if you don't and you want to make it like, home thing, you can start yourself to understand better. It depends what your business looks like. I truly, strategic wise, believe in doing things yourself first and then giving this, to some of your
Learn,
employees.
do, teach is the methodology.
Exactly. You teach better, you know better. But if you do give it to your employee, you have to, direct them properly. Now, in terms of, in terms of the amounts, I really cannot put my finger and say a number, not even a range, because some of the brands I sell and I work with looked to me very small and very, I was skeptic about them, and then they were selling.
Maybe they're perfect for retail or something like.
Right. Some of them sold between $500,000 and $1 million in the first month, while bigger ones that are selling 30, 40 million a year, and I have those kind of brands, they were selling like, much less than that, at least in the first, few months. So it really depends. You can explode in the retail and it can go slow. It really depends. So
I would say to the merchants out there, you really have to think about how your product is going to feel and vibe on the shelf. And so understanding the customer and how they're walking by it and how they're actually going to buy similar products. So that research phase that you talked about.
Actually, you have two customers. You have the consumer, the final consumer who walks into the store and looks at the package and saying, what is it? Oh, I love it. I know what it is. And you have the buyer, which is another customer you have to go through. So
you're right. You have to look good to both of them in order to make it on the shelf. I love it. You hinted at the idea of working with you, and I absolutely love this idea. If you're thinking about breaking into retail, take Taylor as this fractional, expert, and then he can set up the framework. Taylor, do you often, I think you work with brands in a long-term capacity, but do you also work with them in a way in which you get them set up, packaged right, close a few deals, and then say, all right, take it and run with it on your own?
Right. So I have actually two options. I used to have an online course that I did, and it's recorded one. And if anyone wants to take it, it's not, it's not that expensive and everything. And we can, whomever comes through your amazing e-com tech company can get 20% discount on that. But that's first option. The second option is obviously something that we do. We're trying to do it, in a scale, to scale it, not to do too many of it. But we are like taking and moving you from online to offline, meaning, all these 6 points that I mentioned, I have all the team up and ready to do it in-house. And once they're done, we're going to the next step, which is actually the third option of working with me as a rep agent. Like I take your products and I start selling them, as easy as that. Obviously, you have to see, where you're at that certain point you are at. So this is what I do for you. And I do believe, and it's important to say, I do believe in micro brands, small to medium. I'm not looking for the huge ones because, I had a call with CVS. I just mentioned that before last Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. And they always, talk with you as if you are, new to the business, and they're referred to you as a micro brand. They even have programs of, you coming in and learning how to work in retail because they are looking for those small e-commerce brands. So just to say that that's the same thing with me.
I love it. Awesome. Taylor, thank you so much. We're going to move right into our next session.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me.